Hello and welcome to another night shift. My name is Yazil, and today we work at first on Unity, and then we continue working on our login plugin for Rift. In the moment it is when we type in the username and the password plain text, and that's not what we want. I can show you. This is the workbench from MySql, and you see the moment we're gonna save that here, something like plain digit or plain character, and we want to hash the password at least, so it's a little bit more secure. So let's see. What we need is an helper class for the hashes. And so I just made under helper a new C# script, and then I opened it to edit in mono development. So I added it to the namespace Yazil, which is the same than our UI const CS. And we use an enumerator to define our different hash types. So just public enum hash type or whatever name you like, and then MD5, SHA1, SHA256 or SHA512. And at the beginning we defined our password field like 50 characters. If you do more than SHA1, you need to update your function. I'll show you that later on in our login plugin. Next we need the helper class itself, and I defined a public static string return hash, which the inputs is the string and hash type, so one of these, and as a return value we want to have a string. We need two variables. One is the field of bytes, and we need the hash algorithm, which is in our case, underscore hash code. So let the magic happens. Undo. As you can see, we switch on base of our hash types, and we start with case hash type .md5, and we initialize our hash code with md5, and after that we build our hash code out of our underscore my input string, and we'll store that in the variable hash bytes. And that we do for every different hash types. So after that we got a list of bytes with a hash code inside. Let the magic happen again. Undo. At last we need to use the string builder, and I define a new variable. It's underscore return string. It's a new string builder, and for each byte in hash code, in hash bytes, we store the byte in underscore byte and change that to a toString, and we do that in hex with 2 digits. And after that we just return our return string and change it to a toString function again. And so if we call this function return hash, put in a string and a hash type, we get an hash back. So let's bring this function into use. So save that and go into our login manager, And basically we want to change this here with our return routine. So for that we need a variable which is my hash type. Out of the hash types, and I define hash type.sha. Be sure you have using your ZL inside, then you can use that direct. Change that here. It's hash helper dot return hash brackets underscore password, and we need my hash type. There, and this we also need here. And that's it for the Unity part. For our next part, just go and copy everything which is in our hash helper class and open Visual Studio and go here under LoginPlugin, right click, add new item, a class, and we call it hash helper. Double hit and just paste everything in we copied from our Unity project. Save that. And next is we go into the login C# script. I forgot something. You also have to change the namespace to login plugin. So next we want to go ahead and do a couple things. Two goals here in the moment is to add a command so we can add a user from the server and to switch on debug. So that's our two commands. For that we need to add two functions. Just scroll down here. We need to add the private void debug function with its string list, and we need to add an user add command with a string list also. Scroll back up there. It's basically the command itself, the description, and new action string list, and that will be fed into the AddUser command. Okay, add these two. And after that we need a private object underscore object, which we store a database result in. And then we go and start with our AddUser command. Now let's start with the debug command. Debug command is really simple. We just get our debug variable and set it not debug variable. That means if it's true, it gets false. If it gets false, it gets true. And then we just interface.log the log message and give the variable here for it's false or true. That's all for the debug command, just plain and simple. The string list we have to have here because the plugin in Darkrift or the command for the plugin relays on it. So, and the next is we gonna have an AddUser command. and we feed it with a string of user and a string of password, and we use the try and catch the database here. So basically we use the Darkrift server database, execute non-query, and we insert into our table player user and password with the values add username, add password, which is the query here, new query parameter, which is username, and our variable username, and password query here with our underscore password. So basically means that these values will change with the variables. If there's a problem, we catch the database exception E, and if the bug is on, we log that into our login window or log window in the server. I see a problem we get here. If we do that here, we get always a message. Of course, we need to do that here. So if debug is true, the interface log says login new user username. So that's a subcommand we call from our on-server message stuff and or from our AddUser command. Also, we need to have an check user. So what we want is if a user should be generated, we just check in front of if the user is existing. So we try and we use the object we defined above as an execute scalar, and we select exists, and we select one line from table player where username is equals to the add username query, and username query is exchanged to our underscore username, which we get as a parameter over here. The string password is still in there, so I want to go further ahead in the next videos with these check user. And if that is okay, we return the object, and before that we convert it to Boolean, since our return variable is a Boolean. If it's a problem, we catch the database exception again and debug it, and else we give out true, which means the user is existing and we got an error of any kind, so no user can be created. That's the check user. And now we're going to our add user command. So we got in that's the function for our, let me scroll up, for our add user command from the server side. And what we're going to do here is we get our list of string, and we check if the string length is everything else than 2, and if that is true, then we return just. So we want explicit 2 parameters in our string. And the string name or the string underscore username is the command string is on position 0, and the string password, you know that already, hash helper class dot return hash, and we want to have SHA256, and this is the second string into our list. If that's true, here, now if the check user is false, means we need to check of is not in front of it, then we want to call our function AddUser. So basically we get an input from the server side, from the command line, and we got a field with strings. On the first parameter, which is on position 0, is the username, and position 1 is the password, but we have to hash it. So we use our return hash command, and then we check if the user is there. So we check is not true. And if that's the case, then we want to call the AddUser function and write it down to the database. So that's the server side AddUser. Then we got the on-server message we already know, which happens when the on-server message is called. And for that, we scroll a little bit down and go for our did we get an AddUser message. So the same again, we're going to try and using the Darkrift reader and read out of the data the username and the password. The first is the username. Since we sent the username first, let's switch to our login manager, and we can see we write first our username and then our password. And then we also check if the user exists, and after that if it's true. So if it's not exists, then we call the function AddUser we have here. So after that is all we need. No, not real. Since we use SHA-256, we need to change the length of the password field. So since our plugin is already installed, this will not be called. It's only for the first time, so we just change that here. So let's change to our workbench and go for write alter table. Then we get a list here, and you just change that to 200. And after that, apply. Oh yeah, well, no changes detected at my side, so I just go there, say apply, finish. So our password field is now greater than these 50 because SAH is a little bit bigger. Well, that should be all. We're gonna try and build it, rebuild plugin, see what's gonna happen. Ah, yes, save that. Rebuild all, one success. So we go through our server, source, LoginPlugin, bin debug, LoginPlugin, copy that, and go to server, plugin, right click, insert, yes. And we start up the server. Here we go. Let's check again my workbench. And in our table player is nothing in. And we're going to use help. If you don't have these one, it's on my webpage, yazil.de. There is an part tools, and there is these DLL inside. It's just a little helper tool I wrote myself. So we can see we got two plugins, the helper plugin and the login plugin, and the login plugin has AddUser and LP debug. We start with that, LP debug. As you can see, debug is false. Of course, we started in our settings.cnf with true. So we do that again and it's true again. So debug for this plugin is on. And then we're gonna do add user and we call it test and the password is test also. And we just return and the debug says a new user is created. We go into the workbench and go here for refresh, and you see we got a user with the name test and the password with it is hashed. So that's from there, the part. Next part, we're gonna check if it works from Unity. So let's start up. So 2 and add user, and we see on our server the new user with the name 2 is generated. We go on our workbench again and go for a refresh. It says username 2 and this is the hash for the password. So that's it for today. The next part we will work on the login itself. So we work on this message over here with the return stuff to our Unity client, and we going to process the data we receive there. That's it. If you like it, just click the like button or subscribe. I would be more than happy. If you have any questions, just leave a comment, and so long. Happy night shift.